Professors fret that classes filmed as part of the coronavirus disruption might find their way into the hands of right-wing outlets. Shh. Do you hear that sissing sound? It's the air finally being let out of the professorial academic bubble. I'm Dr. Duke, she's Katie, and let's pop that mother. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dr. Duke Show, the only program that keeps you educated on the craziness impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses around the world. Today, we discuss a sociology professor that claims fatness is a social justice issue. I finally found my victim cause here, and should provide plus-size students special privileges, including accessible desks. Plus, we dive into the John Donne instant classic, Holy Sonnet, Death Be Not Proud, little culture for you. But we start on the college campus where leftist professors, now being forced to teach online, are concerned that their digital lectures may expose what they're actually teaching to students on campus. The Academic Buffle, that's the mother we want to pop, right, Katie? So these professors are completely insulated. One of the reasons that universities are so toxic is because there is almost nobody there who disagrees with them. Universities have scrupulously, don't forget, who hires faculty in colleges, right? It's not panels of outside people, it's not politicians. Faculties at public universities are hired by their own faculty members, right? So when the English department wants to hire somebody, English professors get together and do 85% of the hiring work, right? Deans up the ladder and provosts just tend to rubber stamp whatever we do. So you look at it this way. In English departments, where it's something like 34-1 in terms of liberal and conservative, guess what happens? 34 liberals get together and elect the most obviously, patently liberal candidate possible, right? And there are so many tells nowadays. You just look at the work they're doing. Are you working with race, class, and gender, or are you not? If you're not woke enough. So liberals hiring liberals for about 35, 40 years now has created a system where everybody is not just liberal, but extremely left-wing. So much so that if you're a blue dog Democrat or if you're a moderate progressive, they may as well look at you as if you were a Nazi. They're so isolated in the academic bubble from people who are the slightest bit different from them. I'm talking about faculty colleagues. They don't care what your kids think. In fact, your kids show up right wing on college campus, they will work overtime to kick the right wing out of them. So their faculty, the faculty lounges, the faculty meetings, who is it that becomes deans and provosts and chancellors? They're all taken from the faculty level and bumped up, almost always, which means you have a complete monolithic of radical progressives. So anybody even moderately to the right or even moderately liberal is now considered a right-wing Nazi. And this is what they're finding out now. Now that the coronavirus, hey, another silver lining. For those of you who think I'm a little too pessimistic, there's a great side effect of coronavirus. I'm so excited about the coronavirus because it exposes what these left-wing professors are saying in the privacy of their classrooms to greater scrutiny, and that's necessary.
And because they're having to go online and they're spending even more time online in their social medias, they're actually admitting out to the general public of their fears, especially on the Twitter sphere. So we have Texas Christian University Associate Professor of Political Science, Emily Ferris, who wrote on Twitter, "If you are recording a lecture on anything controversial, be prepared for right-wing sites to ask students to share it." And apparently the settings on her Twitter account were subsequently changed to limit public access to her page. I wonder why. Then after Ferris wrote this, it's been about a week, it says, "I'm sorry, it is a real fear." According to Italian-born Marcello Graziano, who's a professor at Central Michigan University's College of Science and Engineering. And then this basically is trying to, I'm sorry, it's a real fear. He's trying to just get everyone to just be fearful. It's a real fear.
Notice what you just did. You gave us an example from a professor at a Christian school.
I know, that's what I was.
Texas Christian University is teaching such radically left-wing things at a Christian college that she doesn't want the rest of the world to know.
And it's a course of political science.
Political science. And how about this? Marcello Graziano at Central Michigan is actually a professor of science and engineering. So if you're a science professor or an engineering professor and you're talking about how letting our lectures be heard by the public is going to really stir up the right-wingers, are you doing your job as a science or engineering professor? To what degree does science and engineering have to do with race, class, and gender studies? To what degree is science and engineering a format where you can vent about politics and current events? It's not. But according to Graziano, even he, right, who is in that department, isn't safe. Makes you wonder, Mariano, what are you hiding? What are you talking about that you don't want people to know? If what you're doing is vectors and engineering or chemistry, then you really shouldn't have a problem with any aspect of your class getting out.
So apparently all you right-wing sites work overtime because for years and years, all these professors have been working overtime on their students to get them to convert to their little ideologies. And now it's the right-wing sites' turn.
Well, and
I'm being facetious. People.
Look at how quickly the liberal sites would be labeled right-wing if they do that. If Vox or what are some of the left?
BuzzFeed,
BuzzFeed, or
CNN, any of them.
They're all running out of money.
mainstream.
If they started going after university professors for what they were saying in class, suddenly they would become right-wing outlets too.
Okay, well, it's time to talk about some Fad Studies, because we have a Fad Studies scholar who's saying that basically desks are not accessible to them. I can't even get through this story without just sighing the whole time. UW-La Crosse in the great state of Wisconsin has a sociology professor who specializes in Fad Studies. Her name is Professor Lori Cooper-Stoll, and some of her and her students demand and bemoan about not having accessible desks. In the article, Fat is a social justice issue too, she argued that fat phobia is a system of oppression worthy of greater theoretical and empirical consideration in humanist sociology. In an interview she did about this article, she talked about her own issues having to fit into the desks, especially those with arms. We're not just talking about fat students, she said. We're talking about having spaces where all bodies can be included.
Oompa, oompa, oompa-dee-doo.
Those, okay, they scared me as a child.
They should have scared you. It's probably why you're healthy and you're healthy and the right weight for your age.
Why, thank you.
Did you notice what she called herself, the fat professor? Fat Studies professor? She called herself humanistic sociology.
Yes.
That's like saying humanistic biology, right? It's the idea that we're going to take something like sociology, which is supposed to be really statistical and very analytical, and we're going to turn it into a social justice topic, right? We're going to ignore statistics and facts and data, and we're going to teach humanistic sociology. That's like feminist biology, right? It is a tell, it's a marker that what you're doing is not serious study anymore. This is just grievance industry stuff. And I got to say, 25 years as a professor, 25 years. I've been a Christian white male. I have been responsible for every evil in the history of the world.
Yes, you have.
And now, I too am a victim. I'd like to thank the Academy for this award. My overweightness now has classified me to be part of the victim group. Thank you, America. Thank you.
Meanwhile, I'm still a victim because as a person using my left hand to write, there are no desks in a room for me most of the time. And I am stuck going.
If you had a chubby left hand, you'd be all set. On. But see that, alas,
I got a fat
poor
nut.
Lefties, right? What does the word mean in Italian? Sinister, right? You sinister bastards. No one cares what you think. No one cares that you have a serious problem with the way desks are aligned in college campuses. You're just not fat enough, Katie.
I will work on that. So for months, our friend Lori Cooper-Stoll has been demanding acquiring less restrictive seating arrangements, and officials at the university have individually said they'd consider this, but no progress has been made yet.
Yeah, the problem is that there's too many fat white people. If we had just 3 or 4 fat trans people making this argument, the whole seating arrangement of universities would be changed tomorrow. What she needs to come out as get this. She needs to come out as trans fat. How's that?
Stop
it. She could be trans fat. How about that? Oh, we're on. It's on. We're on fire.
There's a little sizzle.
You
have so much sizzle today.
Hey, for those of you out there who think we're a little dour here, that Dr. Pesta in his old age has grown a little bit crabby. Hey, I'm trying to I'm trying to loosen up a little bit. Maybe, what do you think? Maybe I should do a show in a wife beater and some jockey shorts. What do you think?
Please don't.
Free myself. Because may I also point out
And the rest
to those of you out there who think that it's just Dr. Besta, he's just a little crabby. We're talking about education. Let's say we were doing a show on the coronavirus, right? Because there's a lot of them now. And all we did for an hour, 4 hours a week is talk about coronavirus. And boy, I was so sad. And gee, the news is all bad and people are dying. Well, that's because you're talking about a disease. With all due respect to you, education has become a disease. Public schools and public universities are a cancer, right? Now, if you would like me to joke and laugh and tease about cancer, I will do it.
He will. But we're going to continue on. And we're going to go to Lake Superior State University, where a student there faces terrorism charges because he posted a picture of his firearm on social media. And he put a joke with it. And so in August of 2019, this happened not quite a year ago, but Lucas Gerhard uploaded a photograph of his new AR-15 to a private group on the social media platform known as Snapchat. And he had the caption, "Taking this bad boy up, this ought to make the snowflakes melt, and I mean snowflakes as in snow." So ha 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 ha, Tim. Okay, so basically his father, Mark Gerhard, who is a retired Marine of 30 years, mind you, talked to Campus Reform about College Fix about what had actually happened with his son. He said his son Lucas is an Eagle Scout and has never been in any trouble before. He was going into his third year as a junior criminal justice law enforcement major at LSU with the full intention of becoming involved in law enforcement in some way with a focus on state police. So that's who Lucas is, all right? Well, here's how everything went down. He posted the photo. The next day he went to campus to begin the next semester. And at his campus, they allow guns. So he brought his rifle with him, he stored it in the armory, and then 4 or 5 hours later, after checking into his dorm and everything, the cops showed up to give a search warrant for Lucas's Snapchat account. And so they were able to go into it, and now he's facing terrorism charges.
Terrorism. Look, I get that universities are highly ridiculous, overreactive, hypersensitive, politically correct cancers, tumors. They're walking tumors. I get it. I already said that. But what gets me about this story is, having said that, I'm not surprised they're doing this.
I'm not surprised.
Because of the picture and because of the possible implication of what he wrote, I'm not surprised. What gets me is the terrorism stuff. You've got radical leftist Antifa kids in the streets, and they are throwing rocks, and they are threatening people, and they are beating people. No terrorism charges. You've got Black Lives Matter thugs over the last couple of years who have been engaging in the same kind of violent protests and threats. No terrorism stuff. You've got people who are white people in places like New York are being punched in the face and kicked and beaten because of their whiteness. White kids on school buses are being beaten nearly to death because of their whiteness. No terrorism there. But one picture is worth 1,000 terrorisms to the left, right?
Well, what he needed to do is say, I'm protesting, and then maybe it wouldn't be terrorism. Because in every, I know, but in every instance of all that, anytime Black Lives Matter, Antifa, or any of those groups, well, I'm protesting, it's my civil rights. If they associate the word protest with it, clearly they are allowed to do it.
But don't you understand that right-wing protests are terrorism?
That's
when right-wingers, and let's stop using the damn word right-wingers, when conservatives, for God's sake, protest, that's a form of terrorism. Because remember, your conservative values, when you verbalize them, they assault me, right? Your words do violence to me. That's how they proceed with us when we protest. So this kid was going to get scrod no matter what he did.
This is
and
true.
I don't mean the fish. Past participle of screwed, right? To screw. Screwed, scrod.
More today.
Scrod.
All right, I need a little...
More lightheartedness.
Well, I would like some more positivity in my life. So we're going to talk about John Donne, who is another artist, again, in the late 16th and early 17th centuries. So far, that's kind of the era we've been looking at.
1572, 1631.
There it is. He is a poet as well as an English scholar, a soldier, and a Catholic who converted to be Anglican, and later in life he took holy orders, becoming a deacon and a priest. Many have called Donne the great or the father of metaphysical poetry, as he wrote about love and religion. And later in life he focused his sermons and then the religious poems which challenged death. In 1609, but not published until 1633, Donne wrote 19 holy sonnets, with one of them being called Death be not proud.
Yeah, Donne is one of the great Renaissance figures that we don't read enough anymore. He, in his own way, his brilliance in places rivals that of Shakespeare. His work with lyric poetry was staggering. And one of the things I love most about John Donne is his religious poetry, the so-called holy sonnets. Everybody out there, regardless of your interest in literature or not, have heard the words "Death be not proud." You may not know where it comes from, but it comes from this poet. And again, for those of you who think the class is a little, the show is a little too sour, here's a chance for me. Notice what we do. And Katie, you're the same way, right? I know you're more optimistic about life and education than I am, simply because you're younger. Wait till your kid's in school. You'll see how bad it is. However, notice when we really get excited here and we really get upbeat. We get upbeat when we can do these segments where we teach you a little bit of literature and culture. So the idea that modern education is a depressing thing is accurate. And to deliver that message to you is oftentimes a very gloomy message. But this is where we have a chance to be happy, even in a poem about death. And why would Dr. Duke choose? See, Pastor, I know how you are. You talk about gloomy. You're picking a poem about death. Well, look at what we're dealing with culturally here now, and what everybody's afraid of. Everybody is, in many respects, overreacting to the coronavirus. Everybody's afraid of dying, which is why they're, for some reason, choosing to buy all the toilet paper in the world. Got news for you guys. Once you're dead, there is no more wiping.
Oh, yay.
Death liberates you from the wipe. And in a way, John Donne's holy sonnet, "Death Be Not Proud," is an incredibly upbeat poem. It is and why is it upbeat? Because he was a Christian. Right? And while we can be depressed about the state of modern universities and public schools, as Christians, we must know what Donne knows, that why are we so afraid of death? Why do we behave the way that we do? Why do we overreact? Why do we see death as the worst possible thing that could happen to us? Because if we are Christians, or we do believe in God, then that's not true. And so Donne's poem is beautiful, and here it is. He's talking to death as if death were a person, right? If death were anthropomorphized, made human. "Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow die not, poor death, nor yet canst thou kill me." This is a great observation. If there is a God in heaven, and if Christ is his son, then guess what? None of us die. Death is a momentary biological cessation that gives rise to an eternal, blissful, transcendent, soul-based existence. So in other words, in order to live eternally, you have to die biologically. Biological death, Donne points out, is actually not the end of anything. It's the beginning of life without wiping or dying or becoming sick. Look at that again. Again, "Death be not proud, though some have called thee," some worldly people who do not believe, and some cowardly Christians. "Death be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so. For those whom thou thinkest thou dost overthrow die not, poor death, and nor can you kill me. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, much pleasure." Look, death is going to sleep. It's going to sleep to wake up with God, right? It's the perfect kind of sleep. And look on this world of ours. When you rest, when you sleep, everybody wakes up refreshed. You're going to wake up from actual death eternally refreshed. From rest and sleep, which but thy pictures be, come much pleasure. Then from these much more must flow, and soonest our best men with thee do go. Rest of their bones and souls delivers. What do we say? Only the good die young, Donne says, right? The better you are, the younger you die. And that's not a bad thing. The younger you are, the better you are, the sooner you get to be with the God who made you, a world beyond tears and sorrow. Go to the last part of the poem. He now points out to death, literal death, what his limitations are. "Death, you are slave to fate. Any man can kill himself at any time. You think you're in charge of somebody's death? I can end my life right now. I can get around. I can take your own power away from you. Thou, death, art a slave to fate, to chance, to kings and desperate men. And do with poison, war, and sickness dwell." That's how you spend your life, death, right? With poison, war, and sickness. "And poppy or charms can make us sleep as well and better than thy stroke. Some drugs, human drugs, could put you into such a deep sleep that you may as well be dead. So why are you so proud? So why swellest thou then? Do you not know, death, that one short sleep past, we wake eternally, and death shall be no more? Death, thou shalt die." The only thing that's ultimately going to die is death itself. The only thing condemned to eternal death is death through the promise of the resurrection.
And that's going to wrap up this Wednesday. For those of you with kids, just a reminder that Freedom Project Media is releasing 2 daily animated education videos on our Facebook page. We highlight a new American president every day at 10 a.m. Central Time and one of the 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence at 2 p.m. Central Time. So gather the kids and do a little homeschooling with Freedom Project.
If you thin people would like to pay reparations to fat people like me for all the harm and anger you've forced upon us, feel free to send the check to Dr. Duke Pesta, overweight, at Freedom Project. But before we go, just a quick reminder that despite millions of children being ordered to stay home from school, Freedom Project Academy students haven't missed a beat. They're still getting their classes every day in the safety and privacy of their own home. If you have a student in K-12, take a look at our Judeo-Christian live online classes for next fall. Request your free information packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedomforschool.com. For Freedom Project, I'm Dr. Duke. She's Katie. And until next time, hug a fat person, my friends.